Ms. Jill Fitchard. Ms. Fitchard is the executive director for the Community Review Board. I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce her team, and then we'll get going with the presentation.
All right, good afternoon. And I want to thank the chair of the Health and Public Safety Committee, Council Member Jordan Hoffman, and all of the members of council for allowing us to be here and to do this presentation. I also brought my leadership team because I thought that it would be nice for everyone to talk about their own divisions, and then you also get to see the internal workings of the Community Review Board and how far we've come since the preemption of the Community Oversight Board in 2023. And so I'm going to get started. Thanks. I'm Jill Fitchard. As he said, I'm the executive director of the Nashville Community Review Board. The overview is going to be for each one of our divisions: the administration, community engagement, research, and compliance. That's our 4 divisions currently. The mission of our office is we're the support department for the Community Review Board. We operate the day-to-day functions for the metro government and work to improve the relationship between the citizens of Nashville and the Department of Police. We provide an independent avenue for citizens or civilians to file complaints related to police misconduct, ensuring, and then we also do the independent investigations or the independent reviews from the Office of Professional Accountability. We engage in extensive community outreach, providing education on public safety matters, and also we give the public an opportunity to have input on public safety issues. We also create evidence-based policy proposals to improve MMPD's function and work culture. The vision of our office is we exist to support and value the voice of the community on issues of public safety and to create a pathway towards trust by building a culture of accountability and transparency between Metro Nashville Police and the community. Our core values are integrity, accountability, transparency, and trustworthiness. We also have a code of ethics that we adopted from the National Association. NACO is what it's called, the National Association of Civilians Over Law Enforcement. And then we also adopted, excuse me, a oath of honor, and that was adopted from the International Association of Chiefs of Police. We also have a confidentiality agreement for each one of our employees to ensure that confidentiality is maintained at its highest level. And so every employee is required to sign that agreement if they want to work for our office. The NCRB's strategic pillars, as we decided how we were going to move forward with creating divisions within our agency, so we use these strategic pillars. The first one is to elevate operational evidence, to cultivate trust through transparent engagement, to optimize efficiency through strategic process and improvement, and then to drive data-informed accountability. Our organizational chart is similar to everyone else's in Metro. And so we have grown this agency out in our 4 divisions. We're looking to continue to grow the agency out and make certain that it is institutionalized within the government structure. Thank you. I will now move on to Administration Division.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katora Barnett, and I serve as the Administrative Service Manager for the NCRB. So the Administrative Division team consists, of course, of Director Fitcher and also our Assistant Director, Dr. Kim Risby, myself, and our Administrative Assistant, Marion Pinson. The scope of our administrative division is to make sure that we are responsible for maintaining and fostering positive relationships between the Community Review Board, Metro departments, and external stakeholders. One of our top priorities is to make sure that we are adhering to the policies and rules and procedures of Metro Nashville government, the Nashville Civil Service rules. And for the areas of focus of the administrative division is financials, budget, payroll, time management, open records requests, and human resources. So for our finance and budget area of focus, I work closely with our executive director. We meet regularly to look over our financials and our budget. We have regular meetings, making sure, like every other department, that we're looking over our monthly actuals, our bar reports, purchasing, and our invoice spending. Since our department has expanded from what it was at the COB, we want to make sure we adopted a tool, a monthly budget invoice tracker that I will show you in a minute. With this budget invoice tracker, we adopted just to make sure that we are being accountable for our purchase and our spending and making sure our invoices are paid timely. And for our budget, again, I work closely with the executive director. We also have an NCRB budget committee that consists of the director, myself, and 2 board members. We've started meeting already since we are beginning our budget season, but we go over all of these areas of focus that I just mentioned, just to making sure that we are maintaining accountability, and we also look to forecast what we project to be for our budget for the next fiscal year. The budget invoice tracking, of course, this is the accountability tool that I just mentioned. This is just a snippet and a snapshot of what it looks like. It's broken down by object code. And again, this is something that we go line item by line item just to make sure that our purchasing is correct. For human resources, I serve as the human resource coordinator for the office. And so for these areas of focus, I work with the executive team just to make sure that our new hires have a good onboarding process. And we also focus on, in our office, making sure that each employee, the new employees and the existing employees, have professional training and development. That is a big area and priority within our office to ensure that we are investing in our employees. For the administrative initiatives for this current year, our 2 initiatives is develop an inclusive HR program under the administrative division, encompassing a more robust employee onboarding process, comprehensive training and professional development. And then also we are creating an NCRB Academy, and this is going to be for, of course, existing employees and new hires when they come in. This is designed to educate them on the agency's history, operations of each division, and implement a strategic training initiatives. We want to make sure that all of our employees have an input, a buy-in into what we are doing currently now and in the future. And I will pass it over to the Community Engagement Outreach Division.
Hello, everyone. My name is Damika Cash, and I am the Community Engagement and Outreach Manager. When the agency first began, I was the sole member of the Community Engagement, and last year we was able to hire Kevin Welch, who became our Media Content Manager. The Community Engagement Outreach Division is dedicated to build strong, inclusive relationships with the public by engaging in diverse community, raising awareness, fostering trust, outreach, education, and collaboration with local partners. We foster open dialogues to residents and local leaders to strengthen community engagement. Our goal is to strengthen trust and collaboration between the community and key public stakeholders. Each community experiences safety in different ways, in which calls for a customized approach. So we address this division to work together to understand unique perspective the communities have on public safety. In collaboration with the research team, we develop a public safety community snapshot. This tool is designed to provide residents with a comprehensive overview of their specific zip code. Advertising and promotion. In 2023, we wrapped the bus, We Go City Bus. Also, we wrap benches, and we use internal bus cards to raise awareness. Also, to raise awareness, we purchased billboards in 2025. We initiated our first Youth Advisory Summit. We developed several series. Know Your Right series was a collaboration with the public defenders, and it was designed to enhance public understanding through of their civil rights. While We Matter, this was aimed at building the awareness and highlighting the positive impact of the NCRB. And then Impact Stories is an initiative designed to give the community a meaningful voice to highlight both positive and negative impacts of public safety efforts in their neighborhood. We did a soft launch of Your Voice, Our Mission, and Your Voice, Our Mission, it highlights Community Review Board's commitment to transparency and public safety by centering the community's voice. And I'd like to play this video for you. Okay, please. Yes. Okay. Okay, that's okay. It's fine. Oh. Yes. Okay, I didn't know it was supposed to be on the PowerPoint. That's fine. That's okay. Thank you. Well, we want to play the video, and it was a soft launch of our Your Voice, Our Mission, but we're going to move on to compliance, but we want to welcome the opportunity to collaborate with each of you in the future for any projects and initiatives. So, oh, I'm sorry, we're going to move on to research. Thank you.
I can come over there.
It's working for you, that click. I just did a click.
Oh, great. Okay, perfect. All right. Is this microphone? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ansley Potter, and I'm the Senior Research Analyst for the Community Review Board. And I'm pleased to provide a brief snapshot of our research team and the work we do to support the mission of and operations of our department. So our research team consists of 3 team members, myself, Travis Stratton, who is our research analyst, and Dylan DePriest, our policy analyst. So as a team, our core responsibilities day to day include managing the department's open data portal page, maintaining our case management systems, collaborating with the community engagement team, and tracking Metro Council legislation relevant to public safety concerns. The Community Review Board's open data portal page is a key transparency tool for our department. The research team uploads compliance review reports and other case information to this database immediately following each board meeting to ensure that this information is accurate and up to date for the public to access. The URL is on the screen there, but it's a bit small, so you can find a direct link to this on our website at nashville.gov/NCRB. We also help maintain our case management system, Civil, to ensure that case data tracked in our case management systems internally and other department databases are accurate and uniformly reported, which also helps facilitate production of our internal and public-facing reports. Speaking of reports, in addition to our core responsibilities, we also produce a variety of reports, which we refer to as our recurring and special reports. So we produce 2 recurring reports ahead of every monthly board meeting, which summarize case information and tracks progression of cases through our internal processes for the past 12 months. We also coordinate the development of the department's annual reports, for which we compile data, key findings, and other accomplishments from the past year. So the first of our monthly reports is the monthly statistical report, which provides a high-level overview of all cases received in the past 12 months, including things like allegations, complainant demographics, and complaint locations, so the board is kept up to date on trends and complaints we receive. The other monthly report is our active case progress report, which tracks all active cases from our current and previous calendar years. This report details case ages, status updates, and progress through our internal compliance review processes. In addition to our recurring monthly and annual reports, our team also produces 2 types of what we call special reports.
So we produce informational reports, which are concise, factual summaries of topics like MMPD policy or Metro Council legislation. For instance, we've published multiple informational reports over the past 2 years covering license plate reader technology and FUSIS, which have helped inform and empower community members and policymakers to contribute to the public safety conversation in Nashville. We also produce policy advisory reports, which are persuasive evidence-based reports which recommend policy changes to MNPD. For instance, in 2024, we published a policy advisory report urging MNPD to adopt a comprehensive zero-tolerance policy towards sexual misconduct, as well as our annual use of force policy advisory report, which we plan to publish the next annual edition of at the start of the new year. So these policy advisory reports tend to have a longer turnaround time than the informational reports as they go through a multi-stage process, including a project proposal presentation to the board, a presentation of the initial draft, and a public hearing to solicit community member feedback. Once we present the final draft and the board votes to approve the report for publication, the report is also sent to the chief of police, the mayor, and Metro Council members, as well as other justice stakeholders in Nashville. So that concludes my overview of the research division, and with that, I'll pass it over to the compliance team.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Kim Risby, and I serve as the Assistant Director of the NCRB, and I assist our Executive Director with the day-to-day operations, as well as oversee the compliance team. First, let me introduce you to our team, our lead compliance monitor, Amy Simmons, and our compliance monitor, Angela Williams. My colleague and I will provide a brief overview of our intake and compliance process, how to file a complaint, our intake flow chart, and the OPA investigation. The role of the compliance team is to review complaints, cases that have been returned by the Office of Professional Accountability for thoroughness, completeness, and accuracy, basically to make sure that the citizens have received a fair review. The compliance process begins with a collection of civilian complaints, reporting complaints to OPA, and then there is a review of the OPA investigation. How to file a complaint? I am glad you asked. One of the ways that you can file a complaint is you can visit our office at 401 Church Street, Suite 1300, Nashville, Tennessee. Complaints can also be reported via our 24-hour complaint line, or complainants can simply go to the ncrb.gov webpage. The webpage will lead you to our case management system called Civil. This allows the complainant to receive a tracking number, which in turn allows them to keep up with the status of the case. I would also like to mention that we do offer translation services in our office. This flow chart represents what happens when a complaint is made in our office. First, the complaint is received by the CRB intake coordinator. Second, we review the complaint and follow up with the complainant. Next, we send the actionable complaints to our compliance monitors. Then, the compliance monitors will prepare a referral and submit it to the lead compliance monitor. At this time, the lead compliance monitor will review and submit the referral to our executive director and the assistant director. Last, the executive director or designee will then forward the referral to the MNPD, Office of Professional Accountability. We also connect individuals with helpful resources and support as requested. So at this time, I will pass off to my colleague, the lead compliance monitor, Amy Simmons, who will talk about the OPA investigation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Like Dr. Risby said, my name is Amy Simmons, and I'm the lead compliance monitor. And I'll just briefly speak about the OPA investigation report. Once OPA, that's the Office of Professional Accountability, has received a complaint referral from NCRB, OPA will conduct an investigation to determine any alleged policy violations. Upon completion of their investigation, OPA will provide a copy of their findings to NCRB. OPA returns the case to NCRB with its findings. The compliance monitor will then review the investigation and request data from OPA as needed. The compliance monitor will complete a compliance review summary report and present it to the executive director with all findings. The executive director will review the compliance review summary report for completeness. If no additional steps are needed, the executive director will complete a compliance review report. The executive director will present the compliance review report to the Civilian Review Board. The CRB makes recommendations on cases. CRB reports findings to MNPD Chief of Police and the Mayor. The MNPD Chief of Police has 45 days to respond to the recommendations. Completed compliance review reports are posted on our online portal. At this time, I'll turn it over to our Executive Director, Jill Fitcher.
Okay, thank you all. I hope that that overview gave you some insight into the work that we're doing as a community review board. And we are consistently updating and upgrading the work that we do. And so I thank you for this opportunity. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. We would love to give this presentation to you within our office structure. And can you click that next button so they can see our information? And then we can do this any community members or council members could come to the office and we give this presentation one-on-one, and you can get all the information and, of course, lunch on us. So if you have any questions, I'll take those now.
Thank you, Director Fitchard, and thank you for bringing your entire team. That was very informational, and really appreciate y'all's time.
Okay.
I did see a hand raised. Councilmember Evans will go with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director Fitchard, and everybody for being here. I thought it would be a missed opportunity if I didn't ask about the status of the Butler Snow situation and kind of where we are. I was Googling while we were looking, and it looks like about 2 months ago, we had some public comment about it around the timing and the amount of money, that's been spent so far. So just wanted to ask your perspective about where things stand.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. As I don't know if you've been following along with us, it is something that is a persistent issue that we keep on our agenda monthly. The city has, it's been about 19 months. Going into 20 months. And so the cost of this investigation continues to rise. And so at the last board meeting, the update that we received from Metro Legal was that the case was wrapping up. That's what we heard. But the board did also request the financials on how much that was costing the city. And so we are way over $500,000 at this time. And so hopefully we'll have some type of indication by the end of the year, hopefully. That's in 2 weeks? And then I can share that information with the public.
Any other questions from anybody right now? Okay, you can always, of course, reach out to Director Fitchard if you do have questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay,
if you don't mind, I would like to send that out to the committee just so that they can have it as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you guys want to come to the office, give me a call and we'll set it up and do this presentation for you in a more, robust way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And good luck to you. All right, Margaret. All right. All right, see you later. Thanks for having us.
Thank you all. We're going to get started with public comment just as soon as our guests get on the other side of the door there. So I'm going to call out some names if y'all can start lining up. We got 4 public speakers. The first one is Joseph Killinger, speaking on RS 2025-1659 in opposition, followed by Amani Minad, RS 2025-1655, 59 opposed. So if y'all want to go ahead. Mr. Killinger, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'd just like to speak in opposition of this resolution due to the fact that there's too many unanswered questions regarding the matter at hand, as well as keeping Metro out of harm's way of any possible legal actions that may be brought forth to Metro Council if they do decide to vote in favor of this. Because there's too many unanswered questions as to what they plan on doing with the money and where this is all going.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Amani Minad, speaking on RS 2025-1659 in opposition.
Hi, my name is Iman Mined. So everybody is confused about this memorandum, and it seems that this confusion works in favor of the parties who wish to rapidly push forward this approval, particularly the repeated insistence that the receipt of this money is a done deal, and that if this memorandum is not approved, it would somehow lessen the power the Metro government has on how this grant is to be utilized. But despite this insistence from the mayor's office, if the money for this grant is already approved, what is the necessity for having this memorandum of understanding go through the Metro Council? I sincerely doubt that the same mayor's office from which this confusion originated is truly just looking out for the public. I think that the NDP needs a rubber stamp to even access the funding in the first place. From my understanding, according to the released grant application, the money has been awarded, specifically to the Nashville District Management Corporation, which, although they contract all their operations to the NDP, is an entirely separate entity with distinct legal procedures. Legal procedures which would obligate that any of their expenditures be reviewed and approved by Metro Council as per Metro Ordinance BL 2017-580. But the memorandum in question refers almost exclusively to the NDP, conflating the two entities and implicitly approving the delegation and use of funds awarded to the NDMC directly to the NDP, a private entity that is wholly unaccountable to the council. This would eliminate guaranteed municipal oversight in place of just trusting that the NDP will do what it says it's going to do. Based on what? A promise? And know this, every other city in Tennessee that has received funds from this grant has maintained government control over them. Only Nashville is potentially going to hand control over to a private entity. Similar private management models in New Orleans, Atlanta, and Washington State have already shown this is not a good idea. Don't let it happen here. Please dismiss this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Next up, we have Macy Flaherty, speaking on RS 2025-1659 in opposition.
My name is Macy Fluharty with Black Lions for Peace Solidarity Network. I live in District 12 on Uchee, Shawnee, and East Cherokee land. I'm here regarding the MOU listed as RS 2025-1659 that was abruptly introduced over the holidays. It feels like deja vu since it was only a year ago that your constituents pleaded with you all to not invest in over-policing and instead invest in your city, but it looks like we're back at a scarily similar place as last year. Armored vehicles, more intense surveillance software, and again, risk of government overreach. What's just as, if not more concerning, is that this equipment would be purchased by a private entity that you have no oversight over, one that hires through Solarin, who, to remind you, is in legal trouble right now. What of this over-policing equipment will stay with this entity, and what will go to MNPD so they can skirt around their limited purchasing power? I don't want to repeat myself or others between the testimonies you've heard from FUSIS, more recently with bids, all of the testimony and emails you've gotten on this. We're asking you to give our city a chance to grow, and there is no breathing room when you are over-policed. We can breathe when there are job programs, affordable housing. You know this, and this MOU is still brought forward. This needs to be amended, again, to only include the projects that we need, like restrooms, street outreach, benches to replace the ones NDP lobbied to have removed. But it hasn't been amended in any meaningful way. We must stop investing in technologies that enact warfare on our communities. It's a serious safety hazard to us all. Lastly, this needs to be a public hearing. This is a big deal, and you can't paint it small. You need to hear the people speak if this is going to be pushed on us. We need more than maybe half an hour between both meetings tonight, and we need more than maybe 20 minutes to address this with the full body. We deserve better than this. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Mannon Hall, RS 2025-1659, in opposition.
Hi, I'm asking this committee to vote down the MOU with NDP and rewrite it with the DMC, which council actually has oversight over. Yesterday, at the Budget and Finance meeting, Special Counsel Darby confirmed on the record, and I quote, "There is nothing prohibiting Metro from contracting with the District Management Corporation." When Councilmember Porterfield asked if there was anything stopping council from dealing with the one that we have actual control over, legal said no. The grant was awarded to DMC. Council has 100% budget approval authority over DMC under BL 2017-580. The only difference between contracting with NDP versus DMC is accountability. When council asked the administration why they insist on routing through NDP, we got circular non-answers about who's doing the work, but NDP already operates under contract with DMC. For this committee, accountability is public safety. Without oversight, vulnerable populations are not protected. NDP's track record shows this. Their contractor had 32 upheld violations for police impersonation. Their contractor's equipment storage caused the library fire. And they coordinate enforcement of felony camping laws. Do not endorse amendments that purport to remove surveillance, but do not. The MOU still lists mobile command posts in Downtown Tech Center, which Metro Code 1308-080 defines as surveillance technology. The command posts have video, communications, and monitoring systems, traffic management centers using CCTV. If you approve this structure with cosmetic amendments, you create precedent for the administration to purchase these tools later without coming back to council, as you've seen in New Orleans and elsewhere. They've already done this. Mark Wood signed the original Fusus contract with Chief Drake, then founded Leosite 3 months after council rejected Fusus. Now Leosite is in this MOU. Vote no.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Okay, we're going to get started with the proposed consent agenda. I do want to highlight for my committee members, I'm not going to be reading item number 1 and number 2. Those items have been withdrawn. And I'm happy to answer any questions on those. All right, starting with item number 5, RS 2025-1687, sponsors Toombs, Huffman, and Bradford. A resolution accepting a grant from the Tennessee Corrections Institute to the Metropolitan Government acting by and through the Davidson County Sheriff's Office to fund the purchase of recording equipment for the DCSO Training Academy. Item number 6, RS 2025-1691, sponsors Toombs, Huffman, and Welsh. A resolution approving Amendment 1 to an affiliation agreement by and between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health and Lipscomb University to provide the opportunity for students enrolled in various health professions to encounter a wide range of clinical experience opportunities. Item number 7, RS 2025-1692, sponsors Toombs, Huffman, Welsh, Bradford, Gamble, and Gadd. A resolution accepting a grant from the Friends of Metro Animal Care and Control to the Metropolitan Government acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Health to provide funding for various programs for shelter animals. Item number 8, RS 2025-1693, sponsors Toombs, Huffman, Welsh, and Gadd. A resolution appropriating a total of $355,000 from the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Office of Homeless Services to the Contributor, Inc., and approving a grant agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Office of Homeless Services and the Contributor, Inc., to provide critical time intervention services to ensure that individuals experiencing homelessness are connected to supportive services that will address barriers to maintaining housing and achieving self-sufficiency. Item number 9, RS 2025-1694, sponsors Toombs, Huffman, and Gadd. A resolution appropriating $123,424 from the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Office of Homeless Services to Welcome Home Ministries, and approving a grant agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Office of Homeless Services and Welcome Home Ministries to provide for the provision of recovery beds for individuals with substance abuse disorders who are experiencing homelessness. Item number 10, RS 2025-1695, sponsors Toombs, Huffman, and Welsh, a resolution approving Amendment 1 to grant contracts with various nonprofit organizations to build the capacity of the Nashville-Davidson County Continuum of Care to address homelessness. Item number 11, RS 2025-1698, sponsors Toombs, Huffman, and Bradford, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department and Davidson County, by and through the Dickson County Sheriff's Office for the distribution of state grant funds to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. Item number 12, RS 2025-1699, sponsors Toombs and Huffman, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department and Williamson County, by and through the Williamson County Sheriff's Office for the distribution of state grant funds to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. Item number 13, RS 2025-1700, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department and the City of Spring Hill, acting by and through the Spring Hill Police Department for the distribution of state grant funds to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children, sponsors Toombs and Huffman on that one. Number 14, RS 2025-1701, sponsors Toombs and Huffman, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department and the City of Cookeville, and by and through the Cookeville Police Department for the distribution of state grant funds to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. Item number 15, RS 2025-1702, sponsors Toombs, Huffman, Welsh, Gamble, and Gadd, a resolution approving an amendment by and between Youth Villages, Inc. and the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department for in-home and parent skill building programs for youth involved in the juvenile justice system. That is the last item on consent. Does anyone need anything removed from that list? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second? All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? Item passed with 8 votes in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. All right, starting off, item number 3, RS 2025-1655, sponsors Stiles, Evans, and Welsh, a resolution calling for the Mayor's Office and the Department of Emergency Communications to enact various reforms relative to departmental leadership and workplace culture. I see the sponsor here. I don't know if a co-sponsor wants to move this one or not.
Apologies, I was distracted by my day job. Can you tell me what resolution we're on?
We're on 1655, item number 3.
I mean, yes, we can move that.
Okay. So I've got a proposed substitute. Would anyone like to move that?
Yes.
Okay, and we've got a second on that one. Councilmember Stiles, I will recognize you in a moment. There you are, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Chair. If I could speak to the substitute, what's in it, what's changed. So the previous bill, this is of course in regards to the ongoing dumpster fire we've had at the Department of Emergency Communications. This resolution is intended to ask for a couple of items that the staff asked for in the Ogletree-Dickens report back in 2023 that have yet to be implemented within the department, as well as asking the mayor's administration to please hold this individual accountable for the reports we received back in 2023, but also in the survey results that came out in July, 104 people out of 214 took the survey, and the main word that came back was toxic. So at this point, I think we have enough evidence to show that this individual, something must be done. This resolution is merely asking that something is done and that we also assist the employees. If I have enough time, I did want to read a statement. Unfortunately, there was an employee that was planning on coming today and is unable to attend, but they wanted me to share this statement. My name is Hannah McGuire. I'm a dispatcher and a trainer at the DEC where I've worked for almost 2.5 years. Some of you may have seen me on the local news a month ago. I'm not with you today as I'm currently at work and training a peer. I will try to make a long story clear and concise. I was sexually harassed by a coworker while in a romantic relationship with him. The offenses were not done to me in person, but instead when I was not around. Due to a lack of training, professionalism, and basic care, what should have been a standard HR complaint instead further traumatized me. I filed my complaint in November of 2024. I followed up with DEC HR. I informed Central HR that my investigation was being neglected in March of 2025. I met with the assistant director regarding my concerns. I cried in Director Martini's office about being failed by DEC HR and leadership in May of 2025. I received the finished report the 1st of July. No plan was established, even after I requested one multiple times. No disciplinary hearing was scheduled until after my abuser's personnel file was requested. The hearing was November 18th, over a year after my complaint was filed. I spoke at a press conference begging to be heard. Nothing has changed. As of 2026, I will be forced to work 3 days a week with my abuser. I was not warned. I was not given an opportunity to switch to a different shift, and my requests to do so have been denied twice since our schedules were published. This is not the only occasion of Martini's leadership and culture failing me. I have filed a grievance against a supervisor regarding 3 violations of civil service rules. I filed the grievance per civil service on October 31st. DEC HR has completely disregarded the civil service rules by not completing the grievance in the defined time. I was not notified that there would be a delay until I emailed to request an update a month after filing. I have still not received the result. The requirement in civil service rules is to provide a result in 10 days. It has now been a month and a half. I am exhausted, and I feel like I am being emotionally forced to tolerate violations of my rights or leave. I would like to impress upon you one basic idea. Actions speak louder than words. Mayor O'Connell, do not tell me that there is a zero tolerance policy for sexual harassment unless you're going to hold Director Martini to that standard. Council, do not tell me you appreciate my service unless you speak up to make my work environment safe. Please vote to protect your first responders. We started the conversation about this department in April of this year. For those of us that are second termers, we received our first email from abused workers in 2022. We have been woefully negligent to the employees of this department. This is a non-binding resolution that is saying that we support our workers. And if we're not supporting this resolution, we're saying that we're standing with an abuser. And later on tonight, we're gonna reward him with a new building. Please contemplate that. I hope that you will stand with workers. There are workers from the department here right now hoping that we will all do the right thing tonight. And I am hoping that for all of us. So I hope that you will vote in support. It did pass GovOps 2 weeks ago in favor 6 and against 2. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Stiles. So once again, we're on a motion on the substitute. Any discussion? Councilmember Suara, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to rise in support of the substitute. I think that the reason why some of us were hesitant in the beginning with the original was because it seems to take over the work of civil service, and we don't want to bind Metro in a way that it becomes a problem. We want civil service to be able to do what it does. But now that that has been changed, I think it's very important. I'm a member of the Women's Caucus. I didn't attend every meeting, but the ones that I did attend, this conversation has been going on for so long. There's been so many people involved, and there's still no resolution. And so this is saying we need to do something. And I agree with Councilmember Stiles. This is standing with our employees and saying, look, we want the administration, everybody that needs to do something to up on it and do it as fast as possible. So with that, again, I am standing in support of the substitute. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Suara. Real quick, Councilmember Stiles, I'm going to go to Councilmember Nash, and then I'll come back to you. Councilmember Nash, you're recognized.
First, I've been an employee advocate. I spent 6 years as president of the FOP and an officer. There is a process that Metro has established for dealing with these kinds of issues. I'm a little bit confused. We heard about the person that was spoken of tonight having problems with someone she'd had a relationship with, and somehow it turned into Mr. Martini is also abusing her somehow. I'm a bit confused, but I would also like to hear, when we met about this in government ops, there was questions raised by Metro Legal as to whether if the mayor was to do what was asked here, that it would actually be a violation and possibly open the government up to liability. I support employees. I spent a lot of time up to communications taking mail back and forth up there when I was a young officer. I know what the hard work they do, and I want to see this issue resolved, but this is not the way to resolve it. In my humble opinion, I will be a no, but I would also like to hear from Metro Legal.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Council Member. So let's look at this substitute. It has 3 different sections. Number 1, requests that Department of Emergency Communication increase the compensation for employees who take on training duties. That's a budget matter. That's up to DEC to evaluate what they need in their budget, and it's up to this council to pass a budget based on its decisions about what is appropriate to include in the budget. That's a matter to be discussed and deliberated on and voted on in June. And I'll note that, as with everything in this substitute, that is simply a request. It is not a binding obligation on DEC. Number 2, call on DEC to develop a strategy to include an accessible list of FAQs within 90 days and to communicate that. Respectfully, the charter designates the Department of Human Resources as the Metro agency in charge of these topics. And in my opinion, this is an unlawful intrusion on the council delegation of authority to HR. And frankly, I do not believe it's enforceable. And it's also just a request. Finally, the mayor, as appointing authority, take investigative or disciplinary action relative to the conduct of the director. Let me say that this administration and the law department take very seriously the allegations of Ms. McGuire. Within hours of her public statements about alleged interpersonal conduct and the failure to get an answer, Metro engaged Luther Wright to do an investigation. And he is investigating both allegations. The allegation of inappropriate interpersonal behavior is extremely serious. Also extremely serious is her allegation that her complaint was not handled properly by HR individuals inside DEC. As I understand the complaint, it's not against Maine HR, it's against the HR employees at DEC. Luther Wright's engagement specifically asks him to respond to the allegation that the complaints were not taken seriously. As he started his investigation, and after he interviewed Ms. McGuire, he's already done that, I asked the PIO at DEC, so it would come from a neutral source, to send an email to every employee at DEC saying, if you have a similar complaint to Ms. McGuire, that you have lodged a complaint with your HR employees inside the department and you have not gotten a response or an appropriate response, please go talk to Luther Wright. People have done that. And one reason we don't have Luther Wright's report tonight is that he met with many more employees than he originally thought was going to be necessary for part of his investigation. It's my understanding that on Friday he completed his final interviews and he is working on his report. We should have that report by the end of this calendar year. Even with the holidays coming up, I believe we will get it by the end. That's my hope. So I would say that the mayor has responded to specific and credible allegations. I know the mayor's office has responded to the anonymous complaints. And let me finally say, I am very concerned about the provision in the whereas clause calling on discipline against the director outside of appropriate civil service rules. That is a dangerous precedent for this body to set. We have civil service procedures. Lawyers talk about process a lot because process is important to protect individual rights. Whether or not Mr. Martini, Director Martini, is the right person for this job or he's handled it properly, I don't know, and that's not my jurisdiction. But what we do need to do is to follow proper processes. It is not right to have an out of order, undisciplined process calling for sanctions against Director Martini outside of the civil service grievance and complaint procedures. That is not appropriate, and I strongly caution the council against it.
Thank you, Director Dietz. Real quick, I'm going to go to Councilmember Stiles, then we're going to go back to Councilmember Weiner, and then back to you. Councilmember Stiles, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Chair. I said this 2 weeks ago in GovOps. Wally Dietz doesn't show up unless there's a problem. This is the non-binding resolution. He is here tonight. We have a problem. It's not the one he's offering. It's another one. Councilmember Webb shared in GovOps 2 weeks ago that as the previous CEO of a multi-million-dollar organization, she can see a lawsuit coming too, and it's not the one that we're being told is the problem. If employees come together, we lose that lawsuit for sure. And as much as we'd like to speak about process means nothing if no one wants to put it into implementation. Civil service comes into play, and I reached out to be sure this is the case. If a supervisor, manager, director provides a disciplinary action and that recipient has an issue with it, they go to civil service. The first step that has to happen is that Kristen Wilson, because that's who he directly reports to, would have to give him some kind of discipline. After that, he could go to civil service, and that would be the civil service process. There's a lot of word salad trying to confuse us as to where civil service comes in and where it doesn't, but the first step is with the mayor's office. So yes, this is a non-binding resolution. We're just making it clear that we care about employees and we'd like to see this administration do something, because nothing is what has been done. Deliberating any of the requests that we made, again, staff asked for things in 2023. It can be done by Director Martini. It hasn't been done. Claiming it's an HR issue, we already know we were rife with HR issues. It just hasn't been taken care of. Asking for him to be disciplined, we're asking people to do their jobs. I don't understand why that's such a problem. People expect us to do our jobs. Why would we not hold other people accountable? There is a process of disciplining people, terminating, suspending, but the step has to be taken. And the step has not been taken, and it should be taken. It should at least be talked about. The employees feel like they've been abandoned because I believe we've gotten at least 2 more emails from those employees saying they don't feel supported after coming forward and being courageous enough to share exactly how bad things are. So threats of lawsuits, we get that all the time. I'm worried about what the employees will do. I'm not worried about potentially Mr. Martini and any thoughts he might have. So I hope that we will all vote in favor of this resolution, and we will stand with the employees that work hard for us every single day and are currently on the floor right now dealing with panic attacks and anxiety attacks while taking 911 calls because their leader doesn't know how to do their job with care and concern. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Stiles. Councilmember Weiner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to sit back here and mind my own business and vote, but I feel compelled to say a couple of things. I agree with so much of what Councilmember Stiles has shared, but there's a big fat however, and we have an ongoing investigation that is about to wrap up. We have an opportunity to make suggestions and recommendations and requests with facts. And I would like to hear the facts that Our investigator is in the middle of drafting up for us that he has just concluded. And to me, it's prudent if we give him a chance to share with us what he actually knows to be true. Now, I can say that from the people that I have talked to, from the folks that I have listened to, and the things that I have read, it is extraordinary to me, and it is ridiculous to me that we're standing here still dealing with this issue. And I think it's unconscionable, and I don't like that we are where we are. I don't like what I hear is going on in DEC. My heart goes out to them 100%, but I want facts, and I want to make decisions. There may be way more that needs to happen when we see this investigative report. And I just think we need to give that process an opportunity. And look, it's December, 14th, 15th? I've lost my days over the last week. But I can say we're almost there. We're literally on the precipice of getting this information. And I think that we need to give that a chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Weiner. Councilmember Suarez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. The way the process works is very wonky, but I think that the filing of this resolution also allowed a lot of people that have been following to also hear a lot of things, including the investigation and some of the things that is going on, because part of the frustration is that the employees feel nothing is being done, and that their voices are not being heard. After having said that, I will have a couple of questions for Director Dietz. My reading of the resolution, like I said, of the substitute, one of the reasons why I did not do anything with the original one, but with the substitute, there was reference to the civil service and to the process. So, and in your explanation as well, I understand you said some of these are just basic requests. So how is it, I just wanted to know what harm does it do legally? If it's just a request, it's not saying, it's still deferring to civil service, it's just something out there to support the people. I get we're waiting for the fight. I'm glad we get all the update that we got today. And I'm glad the employees are glad to hear that as well. But this conversation has been going on for such a long time. They needed something. So legally, all these requests, if it's just a request to do, for the mayor's office to do, for civil service to do, for this to do, how is that out of line?
Director Dietz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Council Member. I don't see any reference in the substitute to the civil service process. I don't see any reference to it at all. I may be missing it, but I do not see it in the substitute resolution. What is in the whereas clause is that the sponsor and others publicly called for disciplinary action against the director. There's a process for that. If someone files a grievance or a complaint, there is a process for that. Publicly calling for discipline without following the process is a dangerous precedent. It does not honor the rights of the individual involved. It is a dangerous precedent. These are simply requests, and I will advise DEC accordingly. On Section 1, Section 2, those are requests. Section 2 has a 90-day deadline. It's my opinion DEC has no legal obligation to abide by that deadline. You can take it up with them if they don't, but that is not a legal obligation. My main concern is that we have an investigation that's going. We have an outside independent attorney conducting that investigation, and it's appropriate to let that investigation come to its full conclusion. The report will be made public. Everyone in this room, everyone on this council will receive it, as will the general public. And then at that point, we will know much more about the facts, what the attorney has found in his investigation, and he has interviewed a lot of people. I don't know what his report's going to say, but I know we're going to have it very soon, and I think it's appropriate to defer until that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dietz. Let's see, Councilmember Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So even though I think there's probably a perception about the prime sponsor on this legislation that may be personality-based, everything she's talking about is factual. If I go back to the very first time that I was chair, that's when we started getting the emails. And those emails, you know, I think when you're a first-termer, you're like, the process is going to carry this forward. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to take any action. We got a process. And of course, over time, you see, especially when you get into your second term, like where processes can be, in some cases, weaponized. I don't know that that's the case in this circumstance. In some cases, used as a tactic to delay or stall an outcome. We heard, you know, during the presentation about the process that we're undergoing, you know, with the Community Review Board, where it's almost 2 years later. Now, I don't think that this investigation is going to take that kind of time, and I know there's extenuating circumstances related to the other, but you start to see these parallels, and I think that one of the biggest concerns that I have about this is that we are expressing an opinion. It's non-binding, and so I would really encourage people to support it from that vantage point alone, because if we can't express our opinion collectively, then we end up really without any power. We end up being neutered, and we end up not making any progress. And so I think that is my number one concern. And ultimately, you know, I think the idea of letting the investigation play out is a really valid one. And at the same time, you know, we need to hold, I think, directors accountable whenever they're not working towards improving the culture of their departments. And there's just too much experience kind of in this department. There's things I witnessed being on site in person that leads me to support this legislation. And so I would encourage people to support it. Even if you're feeling a little reluctant, I think it's the right thing to do.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans. Councilmember Welsh, you are next, and then Councilmember Stiles will go to you, back to you, and then to you. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me, even though I'm not on the committee, and for remembering my name, because I saw that little moment of hesitation there.
the antler threw me off.
Oh, yeah. I would like to reiterate everything that my colleague, C.N. Evans, just said, and also say that I think a resolution like this simply shows our employees that we do, in fact, value them and that we have heard them in these complaints, because we on the Women's Caucus have been hearing these complaints for many, many years. I think that Director Deeds said several things that were very, very interesting. First of all, that no action took place until someone made a public statement. There have been many complaints made to HR, both Metro's HR and DEC's HR, that were not followed up on per all the workers that we have talked to. So it was interesting that something only happened, action was only taken when that something came out publicly that could put someone perhaps in a bad light. Also, any process that we go through, all, including the civil service process, starts with the mayor's office. The mayor's office is the office that has to trigger the chain of events that leads us to that. So we want to be on record as saying we want that process to happen, even if we're waiting for Mr. Wright's report. I don't have particularly fond feelings about Mr. Wright and his reports. He's worked many, many times for Metro, and I have felt that some of his reports have not been necessarily 100% fair towards the workers and towards people bringing complaints. Metro always seems to come out smelling pretty sweet. And not all people, and this is based on a personal experience with that, the people who were most affected by what the complaint was were not even interviewed by Mr. Wright. So that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth with that. And also we heard from Mr. Martini himself in a Women's Caucus meeting that he has never been evaluated. He has had metrics-based evaluations, but never a personnel evaluation, and he's been there for 5 years. So it says that we really don't know from our perspective what is actually happening there, except for what these employees are telling us. They are telling us that it's a bad situation. We are telling the administration that we would like action to happen. Again, this is non-binding resolution, but we want this will now, the domino effect will start when Mr. Wright's report comes in. We will already be on record as saying we want these things to happen. So I urge my colleagues to support our workers and vote in favor of this resolution.
Thank you, Councilmember Welsh. Councilmember Stiles, back to you. You're recognized.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to my colleagues that have spoken. I second several of the concerns in terms of the choice. It's always the same individual that gets picked. And I had an experience with Metro Arts with the same individual, and I think he was supposed to have brought a smoking gun that day, and he seemed uncomfortable when he made the presentation because he was delivering the complete opposite. And the response of those that had requested the investigation was very clear that they were not happy. It's great that an investigation was called for, but it feels very much like too little too late. And I think this body does need to stand and make a statement at this point. We don't know exactly what this investigation is. Was Luther Wright asked to investigate Director Martini's actions, the concerns that were also referenced in addition to this individual's concern? Because 104 surveys and a good deal of people saying that this is a toxic work environment, it would seem to me that both should be together. So when this report comes out, if there isn't anything in it that talks about Martini's behavior and the workplace culture, we've wasted money again. So I'm gonna wait and see when this investigation comes back, but for today, we need to stand with workers and say that accountability does need to be had. Because if that report doesn't address Martini at all, this is exactly to Councilmember Evans' point of how processes can be weaponized, misused, and I think we've done enough of that. I think all of us have seen these supposed processes not work the way they're supposed to. And oftentimes, the outcomes, the individuals that they are done to, it's unfortunate. Forgive me, because my mind is also thinking about how some of these ethics hearings are going, who gets picked to go to a hearing and who doesn't, and you know, whether they have evidence or not. Same people are sending those folks. So in any case, please vote yes. Please stand with workers. And if you're okay with what's happening at DC, please vote no.
Thank you, Councilmember Stiles. Councilmember Gregg, you've not had a chance to speak. I'm going to recognize you, and then we'll come back to Councilmember Suara and Evans.
So I want to rise in support, and I want to share why. I greatly respect processes, procedures, regulations, and rules. They're in place to help our city flow, if you will. The hardest part of this job for me is you cannot legislate the human condition. And if we have a family member, if you will, a fellow public servant, who says, I don't feel heard, I'm hurting. If it was your own family member, would you shut the door? No. So for that reason, I think we have to greatly consider this and acknowledge the situation, and so I stand in support.
Thank you, Councilmember Gregg. Councilmember Suara, back to you.
Thank you. I feel like after that, there should be nothing else. I think that is so well said. But for those of us that don't want to do the right thing and don't want to put Metro in a bind, I think that's the reason why some people are hesitant. I just want to draw attention to part of the substitute that I am reading. Number one, there is already allegation for a long time. The director was asked to go through some corrective action reforms many years ago. And then in the recitation that was referenced by Director Deeds, it says that he wants the mayor's office to take investigative or disciplinary action. It did not just say go discipline him. It said you can take investigative or disciplinary action. The result of that will come after they investigate or they discipline. So it's not definitely saying discipline him outside of the system. I'm not reading it as that. I read it to say the mayors, as the appointing authority, take investigative or disciplinary action. And so with that being said, again, it's non-binding, but because I've been at tables where this has been talked about for so many times, that it's just been ongoing, I think, saying we stand with our employees, making sure that they feel heard, and then let the process play out. But we are publicly, I'm even glad that because of this filing, we're talking about it. Other people are reading about it. What the mayor's has done, what the director this has done, everybody's hearing about it. That's good. That's a good step. So this is a further step. So with that, again, I'm urging everyone to please think about all the people that have been asking us. This doesn't do anything, doesn't mandate, it's an opinion, it doesn't even say discipline. And so we're just saying everyone that needs to do something, please go ahead and do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Suara. Councilmember Evans.
Thank you. I was just making sure you noticed we don't have a quorum.
We do not. We can continue debate. We just cannot vote. And we believe we do have quorum now. Okay, so we are, any other discussion on this? We're on the motion for the substitute. Any other discussion? Okay, we're going to move to a vote. We're going to do a show of hands. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? Any not voting? 5. Substitute passes 5 in favor, 1 against, 1 not voting. Now need a motion for the item as substituted. Okay, do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, and we're going to do a show of hands again. Opposed? Opposed? Any not voting? Got it. Item is recommended for approval as substituted, 5 in favor, 1 against, 1 not voting. Moving on to item number 4, RS 2025-1659, sponsors Toombs, Huffman, and Johnston. Excuse me, y'all. A resolution approving a letter of agreement and memorandum of understanding between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and the Nashville Downtown Partnership related to an application for the FY26 Downtown Public Safety Grant from the state of Tennessee. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? I see a list of amendments. I don't know if anybody wants to move any of these. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Does the substitute need to be moved prior to the amendments? No?
No.
Okay, amendments are going to be moved first? Okay.
Yes, yep.
Okay, Council Lady Toombs is not in here right now. She's still in rule, so I will move this on her behalf. And Director Darby, could you speak to her amendment?
The amendment proposed by Councilmember Toombs contains an agreement that it amends the resolution to swap the MOU out for a new MOU, which has a little bit of some cleanup language and has a section in it that requires the parties to comply with 1308.080 of the Metropolitan Code.
Which does what, Director?
13.08.080 is the provision of the Metro Code dealing with surveillance technology and requirements for approval of surveillance technology. And after that, I would gladly welcome Mr. Rosenberg to add anything additional.
Mr. Rosenberg, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It makes the changes Ms. Darby referenced, brings it more current and eliminates some of the language that are things that are have already been done. Also states clearly what entity will be performing which functions, which uses under the MOU, that the list that the MOU limits to. It also now states what it'll be used to. It removes some language about specific pieces of software. And then, like I said, made the changes that Ms. Darby mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenberg. Any discussion? Back to you, Ms. Porterfield, and then we'll go to Councilmember Suara.
Thank you, Chair. Just 2 questions. If we could confirm that the, is it 1308, Director Darby, or whatever the code is that was referenced, or the rule was that was referenced, if we could confirm that that is in fact stating that, or reaffirming that prior to the approval of any surveillance technology moving forward that would call for a public hearing. And I know we discussed this in Budget and Finance yesterday, but I also want to get it on the record here today for Public Health and Safety. So if we could get that confirmation. And then for Mr. Rosenberg, it is removing the names of those two particular software programs. But the question is if there is a similar software program that they choose to purchase or choose to move forward with, would that have to come back before the council prior to them being able to move forward with it? So the first question is to Director Darby, and the second question is to Mr. Rosenberg.
Yes, regardless of whether the 13.080 is in the MOU or not, Metro is still required to comply with that. And if any surveillance technology is being installed or acquired by the metropolitan government, 13.08080 will come into play, and it will have to come to the council. Well, it'll come to the council anyway for acceptance of any sort of donations or what have you, or equipment, but it will also come before the council for public hearing, and that is required by law, regardless of the MOU.
To the administration table, Mr. Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A council member, very similar to what Ms. Darby said, regardless of 13.080, any acceptance of donation and equipment for Metro use would need to come back before council for approval. In addition, there are the provisions that require any new use or any contract related to what's defined as surveillance equipment to have a public hearing.
Thank you. Can we clarify software versus equipment? So, because you specifically said equipment, but I think the other programs are referenced as software. So would that also apply to software?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, if we were to pass this and we were to pass Councilmember Sepulveda's amendment that will also come down the pike, will they, the second version of her amendment, would they conflict with each other? Do they layer on top of each other? Can both of them be passed?
The late amendment that Councilmember Sepulveda has proposed would not. It will conflict with the Toombs amendment, but it will overwrite a portion of the Toombs amendment. So it will essentially take out from the Exhibit A the CSC software and all of the CSC software and from line items.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Suarez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. We had this conversation in budget, so I don't want to repeat everything. But one of the reasons why I'm still against the Toombs substitute is still because of the parties that are listed. And every time that I think I got close to getting over it, I get back to it, and I'll tell you why. The original MOU that we have, the one that Toombs is replacing, is talking about NDP making the application and all of that, which was very confusing. I'm glad that this new substitute actually made it clearer that NDP is not applying, but will be party to it. But this is where I get interesting for me is that when I got the application and the award document, the management corporation has the duty to the state to do the reporting, to talk about everything that happens to the grant. The grant actually went to them and it asked them to perform these functions. The MOU that we have with NDP is now asking NDP not just to carry out the action that we want them to do, but we're also telling them that they have to do the reporting as well. And they're not the one that got the grant. So, like it was asked in budget yesterday, what is stopping us from actually doing this MOU with the Downtown Management Corporation, or better yet, do it with all three of them? Because the state, when you look at the state award document, where it talks about what the grantee is supposed to do, is not just the spending. It's also the administrative part of the grant, which includes the reporting. But our MOU is now giving that responsibility to NDP. So I mean, so that's where I think that, again, now the question, this is where I keep thinking, okay, I got it, but I'm pulling all of them together, I'm looking at it, and it's still very confusing. So how do we do that? And again, why can we not do this with the management corporation, or at least do it with both of them, so that we know that all of it is covered? That was asking budget yesterday. I don't think we got an answer. To whoever wants to answer.
Mr. Rosenberg, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember, I'll turn to the attorney for the legal part. I will say that the goal of this MOU is to bind the uses, to say these are the specific uses that are going to be done. That is the overarching goal of the MOU, and those will all be done by Metro and the Downtown Partnership. And that's why this is kind of really not central to the conversation about the MOU, but I will let somebody with legal experience speak.
And I would say, sorry about that, that nothing in the MOU, I'm Hannah Zeitlin with Metro Legal, excuse me. Nothing in the MOU would override the grant contract that the District Management Corporation has with the state of Tennessee. So they would still be required to comply with any requirements. The MOU does reference those requirements in relation to the Downtown Partnership. But our understanding is that the District Management Corporation will be giving those funds to the Downtown Partnership. That's why it's important for Metro to be contracting with the Downtown Partnership instead of the District Management Corporation. Did you hear that?
I do, but when I'm looking at the responsibilities of the NDP to accept the grant, and I know we said it's because the two corporations are tied together, but it's also said NDP will comply with all requirements, including reporting requirements of the grant. But the reporting requirements of the grant is between DMC and the state. So again, a good friend of mine says that complexity is a power, or is a tool for the powerful, something along that line. I think we're making it so complex. I don't think that I honestly don't think it's anything nefarious, but I think it just begs the question, why are we complicating things? Coupled with that, it's been mentioned, and I give the benefit of the doubt, that the control aspect of Metro oversight of a 501c3 and a Metro oversight of a 501c6 is also in here. So, but I'm looking at this, again, I'm trying to make use of it, and the responsibility of the DMC is transferred to the NDP in our MOU.
Now, I wouldn't say that it's transferring responsibilities because Metro doesn't really have that ability to transfer the responsibility that would be under the grant contract. There would be responsibilities between the state and the District Management Corporation. This MOU is between the Nashville Downtown Partnership and Metro because the Downtown Partnership will be actually getting those grant dollars. And as Mr. Rosenberg said, the intent is to govern the usage of the funds, not necessarily every element of the underlying grant contract. I see Ben Simpson back there. He may have something to add.
Mr. Simpson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Council. Ben Simpson, Chief Operating Officer for the NDP and an Assistant Executive Director for the NDMC. To answer your question, Council Member, you do have oversight over the NDMC. There is no binding document save the one that you have in front of you for the NDP. We are trying to be good partners. Therefore, we are offering a binding document to Council and to this administration to govern what we will do in our part of the grant and to govern how we will give the grant to Metro.
Okay, thank you. The question that I had was that in the grant document that was shared with us, right, the DMC applied for this grant, DMC got the grant, the grant addresses the DMC and talks about what the DMC needs to do. That's a separate thing entirely, right? But I'm looking at our MOU, which is with NDP. And part of the responsibilities of the NDP includes comply with all requirements, including reporting requirements of the DPSG grant, item number B, 2B, right? So the question that keeps coming up again, and we asked this yesterday, Director Darby, I'm going to ask it again. Is there anything prohibiting us from having a contract with the DMC so that we're doing it with the person that got the grant that we agreed to in the first place that if you apply, we're not going to apply. Now that you got it, we'll be working with you. They can, or better yet, like Councilmember Porterfield said, can we put all three so that we're not confusing stuff for people like me? Maybe it's clear to all of you. It's not clear to me how this works.
So, as I said a couple of times yesterday in the committee, there is nothing that prohibits Metro from contracting with the District Management Corporation, the DMC. Metro is not doing that in this resolution. Metro is contracting with the Downtown Partnership. The Downtown Partnership has an agreement with the DMC to be its operator. And now I'm going to get into the land of presumptions here. It is my presumption that part of that agreement is that the DMC, when they receive those grant funds, they will be transferring those grant funds to the Downtown Partnership for the operations portion of the agreement between the two. And so what we're doing here in this MOU is we are engaging with the Downtown Partnership, who will be the ultimate recipient of the grants through the DMC, from the state through the DMC, so that we can attempt to limit what they spend the funding on. If we were to contract with the DMC, which there's nothing to say that we can't contract, we are not prohibited, but that's just not the subject matter of the agreement here.
Thank you. And here's what I wanted to make clear, because I don't want to keep going round and round in circle. If the DMC got money, gave it to NDP, we contract with NDP separately, all of that is fine. It's just the unique nature of this particular grant that makes it very confusing, because it's the entire grant amount. And also the application for this particular grant is contingent upon Metro agree that DMC will apply, so Metro will not. Does that make sense? So that is how this is structured. That's why for me, again, if we cannot, and if there's something prohibiting us, then why are we not doing that? I mean, that would be my request, that we should consider adding the DMC or doing something, because this whole thing started with DMC and Metro, the way that I'm reading it. And if there's something wrong with that, that's what I think we'll rather do. So.
Are you asking me to respond?
Yes, Mr. I don't know, whoever wants to respond. I come back to, look, this is where I always sit. Perception is very important, and what people believe is very important. It does not need to be so complex. It does not need to be so, if there's nothing wrong with it, if it does almost the same thing, why are we not doing it? Because the perception is that the reason we're not doing it is because the oversight will be affected. We've been told it would not. So then why are we not doing it is the question.
I want to go back to the reporting element that you brought up earlier, because I did mean to respond to that as well. The reporting element, you're correct. The DMC is required to report to the state per the grant contract. The DMC also has their agreement with the Downtown Partnership. We're asking the Downtown Partnership to make sure that the reporting happens. And so the Downtown Partnership is the management organization for the DMC. So the District Management Corporation is essentially contracting with the Downtown Partnership to engage in all of its activities. They act through the Downtown Partnership. So it's kind of a privity of contract that way, that when the DMC has a contract with the state and all of the actions that the DMC is required to undertake with the state, the Downtown Partnership is going to be the actual entity doing the work on that front. That's via contract.
Thank you, Ms. Dabby. Again, I won't keep going right around in circle. I will be a no on it. I love the fact that the substitute actually made it clearer than the original one that we did, and it's talking about what already happened rather than what should happen. So I'm glad that that is being addressed. But for the two reasons that I still feel now, the software piece of this exhibit, I just say software, is not good enough for me, because it could be any software. But this entity thing, I still think is convoluted. I don't think it's as clear as it is. And I know that all the lawyers and everybody think that it's not. But for myself and a lot of people in the public, we still feel like it just is not clear enough. So my take is that I think we need to fix that part of it, but I would not be moving anything at this point. I'll just be a no on that substitute. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Swart. And just a quick note, we are 50 minutes over time. We've got another committee that is scheduled after this. So just to get it out, Councilmember Evans had her hand up. We'll go with her first. Councilmember Porterfield, I'll come back to you.
I think Councilmember Suara got incorporated some of my questions, so I will just pass.
Okay, all right. And I think I saw the downtown council member's hand go up. I'll go to you first. You've had your hand up for a while. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And I've got a question. I also want to just keep on the radar that I've got an amendment, but I know we're on a different amendment. Excuse me, we're on different amendments. Just want to keep that flag. So when you get married, you take out event insurance, and then you name the wedding venue as an additional insured. The letter of intent has DMC, NDP, and Metro as parties to the agreement. I understand intimately the relationship between DMC and NDP and Metro, et cetera. I guess my question to the administration is what's the downside at this point? We've got a late filed amendment. We've got some late filed documentation. What's the downside to adding the DMC as a party to this, given that there's 3 parties involved in this conversation? There's 3 parties on the letter of intent. Why wouldn't we add 3 parties to the MOU? What's the downside of that?
Mr. Rosenberg, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember, I can't speak for the interests of NDP or DMC and their interest in doing that kind of thing. I can say that the purpose of the MOU and what its effect is limiting the uses to what's listed in here. This accomplishes that 100%. Whatever confusion exists as the result of conjecture is out of our hands. We're looking to pass sound language, and this accomplishes the goals.
Thank you. Just real quick, to take us out of the land of presumption, I was wondering if Mr. Simpson perhaps or somebody could speak to the relationship between the DMC and the NDP as far as DMC is going to collect the funds. Is that an automatic transfer? Like what's the legal relationship between the parties? Is that automatically transferred? If the NDP is bound by something, is DMC bound by something? How does that pathway work?
Mr. Simpson, you're recognized.
So I would agree with both Metro Legal and Special Counsel. At this point, the thing that would bind the NDP, because there is not, as everyone has said, that entity is not bound, would be the MOU with the NDP that you have in front of you. So to add, as I said last night, a superfluous party to that contract that does not have consideration in that contract would then make that contract subject to not being enforceable. But that would be a Metro Legal answer for them to obtain. So what I would tell you is the purpose of the contract in front of you is to bind the organization that I'm representing this evening to the MOU that is in front of you.
And I appreciate that. And I understand that piece of it. The DMC is going to collect the money. I imagine at some point the money is going to move from the DMC to the NDP. So I understand the NDP to Metro piece and limiting the NDP, but at some point somewhere money is going to have to move from DMC to NDP. So I was curious, like what does that transfer of dollars look like?
Well, so the way that the state awarded it was NDP gets 100% of the funds. That's in the application. The contract is with the NDMC. So the way that the state awarded it under the state's guidance, you would be bound by that contract and that application that the NDP gets 100% of the funds.
So the NDP is the one that was awarded the funds and would be getting the funds directly?
I would go back to the way that the application goes through. NDP gets 100% of the funds because we put 0 and 0 on the other 2 lines. NDMC has been the contracting entity. So the contracting entity has been bound by the contract. The funds would have to end up at NDP if you're going to honor the application and the contract.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Councilmember Porterfield, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll be really brief because I know we had a very robust conversation in budget yesterday. I think that answer just is a little bit more confusing for me because I would think that the MOU would be with the party, not the person that's being contracted. So I don't understand why the MOU is not being with the what are the letters again? DMC, NDMC, we run DMC. We're trying to figure out all the letters here. I don't understand why they're not a part of the MOU, and I still don't understand why all three parties can't be a part of the MOU. And like nothing that was said today or yesterday helps me to like clarify that. My two questions are, and I would like to hear from Director Darby first as our counsel, as the legal advice for the council. I would like to hear from Director Darby, and then after Director Darby, I would like to hear from Metro Legal. But my two questions are, what happens if we just vote down the MOU and there is no MOU in place? And then what happens if there is a deferral on the MOU? Will the downtown partnership be able to move forward with any purchases? And if they do move forward with purchases, would the council still have to have a vote to accept any purchases that are made?
If the MOU is voted down, the grant agreement with the state still stands, so the funds can still be delivered and the funds can be expended according to the grant agreement with the state. The grant agreement with the state is a much broader universe of things that can be spent on, so we won't be narrowing the scope of the expenditures for the grant. I think that answers your first question. Your second question was with regard to if they do receive the funds and they want to make donations or gifts to Metro, those donations or gifts would have to come to the council for approval. If any of those donations or gifts were related to surveillance technology, then 13.08.080 would kick in and we would have a public hearing before we had a final decision on those gifts. And
if it's not a gift that's related to surveillance technology, like let's just say it's more equipment for police that's not directly related to surveillance, would the council still have to approve those gifts? Okay. And what happens, last question, Chair, what happens if the downtown partnership makes a purchase that they are allowing Metro entities to utilize without the council voting on that? And to put some context around that, we've received, I believe, one of our constituents that spoke about this happening in other municipalities. We've received some emails about this happening in other municipalities where a purchase was made and they were, I guess, like maybe an information sharing outside of the body, outside of it being voted on and approved. So what would happen if they bought this and shared data with MMPD outside of council approval?
I believe, and I stand to be corrected by Metro Legal, but I believe that if a department like the police department was going to be receiving information from whatever software, whatever might get purchased, that they would need to have an agreement for that, and that agreement would be subject to the Metro Code that would require that public hearing. If it was a surveillance technology or information or data gathered from any type of surveillance technology.
All right, any other discussion on Amendment 1? Okay, we're going to take a vote on Amendment 1. All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Any not voting? Amendment 1 passes 7 in favor, 1 against. There are other amendments that are out there if anyone would like to move them. I hear a motion to move Amendment 2. Do I have a second? Okay. Any discussion? Recognize the sponsor if he wants to explain his amendment.
Thank you, Chair. So my amendment codifies in the recitals kind of how we got here, kind of who's acting in which capacity, where the money is coming from, where the money is going, which elements the NDP intends to keep and operate, which they intend to gift to Metro but still operate, and then which they intend to gift and not operate. Additionally, it reclarifies the requirement of council action for donations and the surveillance public hearing. So hope the committee will support this. I it depending on how Councilman Sepulveda's amendment goes, there may be need to then amend this in a late filed nature, just to update it to the new dollar totals, which would change if her amendment goes on. But at this time, I would move this amendment and then see how hers goes and then go from there. So would love the committee's support.
Thank you, Councilmember Coopin. Any discussion on Amendment 2? All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, those opposed? Any not voting? Opposed or not voting? Not voting, okay. Item passes, Amendment 2 passes 6 in favor, 0 against, 2 not voting. And then we have a late file amendment to consider as well. First, just making sure no one has any objections to suspending the rules. You don't do that in committee? Oh, well, just disregard what I said. All right, so there's two, I believe, Councilmember Sepulveda, that you only want to move one. So anyone like to move Councilmember Sepulveda in a second? Okay, Councilmember Sepulveda, I'll go for you for an explanation.
Thank you, Chair. I would only be moving the second one, not the first. This was the compromise we came to. It would remove LEOSI and 5CAS from the MOU, and it is late filed, and the Rules Committee, which I am a part of and just attended, had no problem with the late filed nature of it.
Thank you, Councilmember Sepulveda. Any discussion? Okay, we're going to go by raise of hands again. All those in favor? 2, 3, 4, 2. Those opposed? Any not voting? 7. Councilmember Gregg, did you vote on that one? You did. Okay. We got it. Late file amendment passes 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Now we need a motion to move the legislation as amended. Do I have a second? Any discussion on this? All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? And, okay, one opposed, and any not voting? Okay. All right, item passes 6 in favor, 1 against, 1 not voting. Almost done, y'all. Item number 16, RS 2025-1711, sponsors Welsh, Huffman, and Evans, a resolution urging the Office of Homeless Services to allocate funding to ensure that no Nashvillians lose their permanent housing due to the changes in the federal continuum of care funding priorities. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Councilmember Welsh, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. This resolution is trying to get ahead of some major changes in HUD funding to homelessness funds throughout the country. In 2024, HUD made awards for 24 and 25, and Nashville, overall, the whole Nashville community got about $11.8 million of that, which $10.3 million was allocated towards permanent housing. Recently, HUD pulled that funding and issued a NOFO, which is a notice of funding opportunity, and that NOFO would limit how much money could be used towards permanent housing to 30% of a total allocation. There's a lawsuit now against HUD for making that, for that NOFO. And so they withdrew that NOFO, and there's actually a lawsuit against it that Nashville is a party to, but they did not reinstate the 2-year funding cycle. So the danger is we are facing all organizations within the COC in Nashville, which is overseen by the HPC, will see their funding dry up. We don't know when any of the funding that was allocated for is actually going to be coming through. And what this resolution is asking for is that the Office of Homeless Services prioritize permanent supportive housing and keeping people housed. We need pivoting within the community to keep people housed instead of housing new people, and coming up with a plan, working with the HPC and the associated COC agencies to come up with a plan so that we know the resources that we have in the community, how we can spread money around and support those organizations that are housing people so we can keep the people that are in housing housed so that we don't find people back on the street. There's no point in us continuing to try to house new people when a month later, people might be coming out of housing. That doesn't benefit on any way. So I ask my colleagues to support this so that we can make sure that we're taking all care of all of our housed persons, formerly homeless and unhoused persons in Nashville.
Thank you, Councilmember Welsh. Councilmember Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak in support. And the reason why I signed on to this is because, well, I'm currently a member of the HPC, but I think the efforts that are happening in OHS are all they're all the right things. But the reality is HPC, OHS need to come together on the plan. They're working on the plan. On Tuesdays, they have meetings where they're talking with providers about contingency planning. But I think this also kind of really connects to Councilmember Druffel's resolution around like where we are with the budget, because if you remember during the budget cycle, we also, so it's not just about OHS's money and what was allocated, we also funded additional dollars in anticipation that Nashville was going to get cuts related to grant fundings and things like that. And I don't want this to be like a SNAP situation where we served as the convener around SNAP issues, but we didn't make a direct contribution. And so just wanted to reiterate my support and appreciate Councilmember Welsh for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans. Any other discussion on this item? Councilmember Porterfield, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to speak really briefly in support of this resolution. We had a very robust conversation in budget yesterday, and I just wanted to remind everybody that this is a non-binding resolution. In this resolution, we're just asking OHS to give this report and to it is not binding OHS to change the way that they're spending money. So that was a concern that OHS had. From my interpretation of the conversation yesterday, that was a concern that they had, that we were in essence, that people could in theory lose housing because money would be shifting from one place to another. This is just asking them to report how it's being spent and to ensure that people are not losing their housing. So I'm going to support this, and I thank the sponsor for bringing it.
Thank you, Councilmember Porterfield. Councilmember Suarez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I rise in support as well, but I also wanted to make sure that I had a conversation with OHS staff before the meeting starts. And so basically, while we're not mandating them on how to spend the money, I think it's important to know that if there's a loss of funding on one program, what this is saying is that they're allowed to use the money on the other one that Metro gave them to help those individuals as well. Bottom line is that we want to make sure that people don't lose their homes. And so it doesn't mean that X dollars should be spent, but I want it to be clear that if they lose federal funding, they can use part of Metro appropriation to help the people, as long as it's for supporting permanent supporting housing and rapid housing. So we cleared that up before the meeting, but I want to speak it into the record as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Suarez. Any other discussion on this item? All those in favor, aye. Any opposed, no. Any not voting? All right, item passes. Was that a 7 in favor? 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Almost done, y'all. We got one more late filed item. Item number 17, sponsor Toombs, a resolution approving Amendment 1 and special conditions related to a grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration to the Metropolitan Government, acting by and through the Office of Family Safety to fund the fatality review team staffing positions to help manage the multidisciplinary needs of its clients. Do I have a motion? Any second? Yep. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Any not voting? Item passes. All right, and one last thing, y'all. I picked the wrong meeting to bring my kid to, so I apologize about that. But this is my little boy, Will, and he's going to gavel us out today. So can you say we're adjourned?
We're adjourned.
Okay.